Hey everyone, it's Ride1940 here. Today we're taking a look at Miltech Simulations MH-60T Tango this time. We're going to look at the Coast Guard variant, and I've got a little scenario set up. It's nothing in their mission package. It's just part of some of their other scenery. They've got a carrier add-on, and that provides us with the USS Virginia off the coast of San Diego. And I've used their mission planner tool, which is vital to getting waypoints inside this aircraft. Using a web browser sort of thing, and I've got it loaded in there, so we're going to go and see if we can find the USS Virginia, and then we'll just kind of pretend that we're picking up a sick sailor and we're going to fly him to the USS Medical Center up in La Jolla. So let's get started. Alright, cool. I think we're all configured. Let's double check here. Actually, you know what I want to do? Since I've made my previous review or first look at the Miltech Simulations MH-60, they've gone and had 2 patches, and they fix a lot of things that were bothering me. Primarily, the big one that was the most annoying was the ground proximity warning system. So we can actually turn that off now. Before it was there, it just wasn't really operable. We'll leave the ICS stuff on, and that should be good. And the radar altimeter, or the standby altimeter, actually functions correctly now with the correct altitude readings. I think it was jumping up by hundreds in the past, but now it's working just fine. And the helicopter is a lot more maneuverable, so we'll get to see that. All right, let's pretend we actually have some co-pilots here, and cool, all right. So we're in San Diego. This is an MSFS 2020. I've been flying this a lot right now in 2020, but I'll eventually shift over to 2024. This is San Diego Bay, and this is where the Coast Guard station really is at. Across the bay there's North Island, so that's where the Naval Air Station is, and that's why you've got a couple carriers parked over there, which they would be in real life. And then we've got another carrier over there, which is the USS Midway, which is a museum ship, and if you go to San Diego, definitely recommend going out there to see it. So this is a normal route that the helicopters would take along San Diego Bay, because San Diego International Airport is just over there, and their traffic patterns, if you can imagine, running straight through there over Point Loma into the ocean, and then behind us from the city coming into land. This way the helicopters stay well out of the way. What is that? I have... oh man. Goodness. So down there is actually where you would see a lot of the helicopters parked in real life at North Island. The helicopter sea combat squadrons are parked there, and the multi-mission helicopter squadrons are parked there. So you got your HSMs and HSCs. Usually the HSCs are the Sierra version, which is also in this pack of helicopters. They do the... Usually they're part of the logistics, doing a bunch of the vert reps, and then they'll also do special warfare insertions and things like that. The HSM squadrons are usually the ones that you see detached to destroyers or frigates and cruisers. Well, we don't have frigates anymore in the Navy, but when we did, they would have gone out to them. Actually, yeah, they would have, but that would have been kind of rare, I think, because... the fleet was using Bravos, I think, for the frigates. Although some were in the middle of transitioning around 2010-ish. Okay, so we're going to come around. This is the Point Loma sub base, and this is Point Loma. If you remember the scene in that Top Gun Maverick movie where Iceman's funeral is, it's just over here. This is a Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery up over there. That's where they did the flybys. So you can see an amphib out there in a cruiser, and that's part of Miltech Simulations' separate add-on for, I think it's the Amphibious Readiness Group. It's part of the... I bought it initially because I had the Miltech Simulations Osprey, and I wanted some ships to land on. Alright, so we're coming around here. So those fly-to points that are on the flight plan there, I had to actually use Miltech Simulations' online tool. They've got one for just adding in decimal degrees for Latin longs, and then you can send it to the aircraft, and it gives you a little code. You punch that code into the whatever that system is down there, and then it shows up magically on the screen, so it's really cool. I don't think you're able to just plop in a flight plan from the main world screen when you're looking at your aircraft to browse and browsing around the world and stuff and picking your departures. I think if you make a flight plan in there, it just doesn't transfer over into this thing. Alright, so one of the major things that was annoying was if I did this, I would get that bitchin' Betty to scream, pull up, pull up, pull up, and she's not doing it anymore. It's because it's actually disabled now, which is great. And that was a major annoyance for flying this aircraft, because it is a helicopter and you're going to fly it low. Maybe not so much this helicopter, but if you're flying an MH-60 Romeo or Sierra especially, you're probably going to fly it low over terrain at some point. Alright. So, part of the scenery that we're flying out to is the USS Virginia. I actually tried to look for it earlier before I actually got some correct latitude coordinates. So it was kind of interesting because it was a simulated search and rescue, and I was actually doing the search part for real because I could not remember where this thing actually was spawned in at the world at. It shows you on the main map, and at the time when I saw it, I didn't think to myself to go ahead and get the decimal degrees or the lat and long of it and convert it to decimal degrees to input it into that map tool by Miltech. But I did that this time, and hopefully we'll find it. There's a nasty marine layer out there, which is pretty common around here, so I could not actually visually see the thing. So hopefully our coordinates are good enough that we can actually find the thing. So I have some other add-ons that add global shipping to the world in Microsoft Flight Sim, and some of the ships kind of sit at anchorage and just sit there, and some others actually sail, going between cities and ports and stuff like that. So that's pretty neat, and it definitely is a must, because if you fly off the coast of San Diego, or if you drive along the coast of San Diego, you are naturally going to see some merchant ships out there on the horizon, and even some Navy ships. So not seeing them in Flight Sim makes the world feel really empty and dead. Oh, another thing that they fixed in the patch that I was really happy to see was the roll rate. Look at that. I'm kind of holding back, but I can actually bank the aircraft now, and it feels super good. If you've flown the UH-60 and DCS, you can kind of get a feel for what the Blackhawk or H-60 series can do in terms of roll rate. Obviously this is a different aircraft, but it should be along those lines. So they certainly upped the maneuverability, which is great. That was another major thing that I didn't like when I first reviewed the aircraft and looked at it. It's flight dynamics. So I'm happy to say that that's really made this aircraft way more fun to fly, and a lot of the concerns I had were gone. The other point that's still not fixed, and I don't know if they will fix it, is they have talked to Snack Pack, and obviously they've made some fixes based on his inputs, thankfully, and I'm glad he was able to do that. But he also talked about the torque stuff, and that's also what I noticed immediately, is the torque's not behaving as it should, and it still doesn't, and I think that they told him it's very difficult in Microsoft Flight Sim to model the nuances of the torque effects and the rotor systems, RPMs, and the engines, and how they all tie together like that. So I don't know if that's a limitation of the sim. It seems like it is from what they've told him. So if that is, then that's just too bad. We'll just have to deal with it. You can actually do auto rotations. It's just I've never done them in real life, but for instance, if you dump the collective, you should, depending on the rotor RPM, you should still be able to fly, right? It should be responsive to your cyclic. If you were to do that in this helicopter, you would just fall out of the sky. Like, there we go. We're nosediving, and my cyclic's not having any input. I have to put a little bit of collective back in, and then we kind of whipsaw back like that. So that's not realistic at all. Should just kind of be able to still fly, and we would notice the rotor RPM to kind of fall out a little bit, because a rotor RPM could potentially overspeed actually. If I was to dump the collective, I would take all the drag away from the blades, and if I pitch down, you could overspeed the rotor system and you could damage it. But you would, if you were trying to auto rotate, you can add a little bit of collective in to kind of manage that rotor RPM, because you're wanting it to stay pretty high, or depending on what the operator's manual says for auto rotations, there's usually a number or a region that you want to be in while you're gliding back towards the ground. And then at the very end, you would start bleeding off the speed while you flare, and you could also add collective in also to start to lower the rotor RPM. And then at the very end, just pull a lot of collective and come to a stop and softly touch down. So it's all about timing and things like that, but you can sort of do that, but there are some weird behaviors in that, and I'll probably show that in a different video, because I noticed you can, like, first you can fly the aircraft with the PCLs in idle, with both of them in idle. I don't know if that's realistic, because I've never flown an MH-60 in real life, but that seems strange that the helicopter could still fly and hover and stuff like that with the PCLs in idle. Maybe that's true, but that is kind of weird. If you cut the PCLs into the off position and then you try to do like an auto rotation, you're able to do it. And the weird thing that I saw was the rotor RPM just stays way too slick, like it's got a lot of inertia to it. So if I was to pull up on the collective at the very end there to kind of cut my rotor RPM down to force myself to land, and to also arrest my descent, you can actually be in a state where there's enough rotor RPM that you actually just fly higher, and you go pretty high too, with both engines out. So it's pretty strange. It shouldn't be like that. Alright, we are cruising along. Let's see here. Zoom out a little bit. Alright, we're going to go there. That is where the submarine's at. We'll see if we can pick it up visually. So yeah, we'll continue on the video when I get to the location. I think we found the USS Virginia right off the nose there. That looks like a submarine to me. Yeah, that reminds me, one time I was pulling out of Pearl Harbor, and the sonar techs on the ship I was on, we had line 6, which is the furthest aft line. So for sea and anchor detail when we're coming in and out of port, we always man that furthest aft line. And once you're done kind of pulling the lines from the pier and you start getting underway like that, we just kind of hang out and just look at stuff. And as we left the channel from Pearl Harbor, we're out in the open ocean at this point. There's a sub on the surface like that, and just kind of look like that off in the distance. And one of my sonar techs was very, very seriously was saying, "Oh, I wonder what kind of buoy that is." I was like, "What do you mean a buoy?" He's like, "Well, it's weird that a buoy is not like an orange color or red and green. Like, why is it black?" I'm like, "Dude, it's a submarine. Are you kidding me?" Okay. I think after that we made him look at pictures of submarines until he got the point. Sweet. So we can lower our altitude. We can also slow it down a bit, add some collective. I want to, there we go, that's good. We'll go to control 2 at 3. Yep, we can crank open the door. Somewhere there's a click spot. There it is. How cool is that? I think there are keys for like doing the hoist and stuff, but I just don't know what they are at the moment. Alright. circle around and kind of go to hover along the deck there. So it seems also with the patches that they've put out, the trim system kind of works now. I was not able to get it to work when it first released, but now it kind of operates like the KA-50 does. If you're familiar with that with the DCS simulator, you kind of hold the trim and then change your attitude and let go of it, and then it should kind of try and keep that. Alright, this is not a good spot. We'll want to turn out of this. I'm more worried about the sail and the periscope and all the other masts and stuff, so I want to be coming at it with that on my right side, because then I could look out here and see it pretty clearly. Yeah, so if you hold that button down, it allows you to turn a little better. When you release it, it kind of wants to try and hold that attitude. Sometimes it doesn't always quite work, but I've noticed it now definitely working for sure. There we go, this is what we want. Alright, so we'll try and hover over the deck there, and then we'll pretend we're hoisting. Oh, there's even sailors out there, that's pretty neat. That is so cool. They even have their flight deck vests, even though they're not on a flight deck. Well, I guess they're float coats regardless. There we go. Alright, we're at like 38 feet on the radar altimeter. "27 feet on the altimeter. 25. Alright, I think I need to take a screenshot of this. Let's actively pause it. Oh, that looks just so neat. That's really cool. Oh, and there's an airliner over there, neat. I gotta say, the mist effects are really neat with this add-on. There's some sort of disclaimer of like who owns the trademark of it or whatever, but whoever made it did a great job. And this submarine looks really nice. Alright, enough of the screenshots there. Oh. We are getting a little too close there. There is the hover system there that I haven't messed around with it, so I don't know how to use it yet, so I'm just gonna hand fly this thing. And this guy is easy enough to hold into a stable hover. Okay, well, let's say that we got the patient on board and we need to fly him to a medical center. So, you know, I have him set to go to UCSD Medical Center out in La Jolla, but I just remembered we don't need to do that, because nor would we probably do that. There is a naval hospital in Balboa Medical Center, which is right outside the downtown city area in Balboa Park. There's a huge medical facility for the Navy there. Usually they would take patients like that from the ships if there's some sort of emergency. Oh, I'm sorry, I left that on there. So we'll go fly there. I'm gonna have to take the waypoint to La Jolla though, and just kind of navigate by dead reckoning further south to Balboa Medical Center. Actually, no, we don't have to do that. We can actually cut the corner there. If we basically go back to where we launched from, then we would be not very far from the medical center. So we'll go ahead and try to go back to home base, which would be this leg going out towards Point Loma, and then we'll cut in. Yeah, you can see the standby altimeter is working just fine now. Another cool feature with this aircraft, which is really handy, is the autopilot. You can just say, I want to barrel out hold, and it's just going to hold this altitude. It may not seem like a big deal during the daytime flying, but if you fly helicopters over the water, especially at nighttime, it could get disorienting really fast, and even more so with the weather and the clouds and stuff when we're going through the marine layer. So it's super cool that that this has that sort of feature, and it does in real life. It's pretty neat. Alright, let's shut this door because it is getting freaking loud. There we go. The sounds in this thing are amazing. I mean, the sounds alone I think warrant a purchase. I think that if you were to buy a sound pack that has Echo 19 things in it, you're just never going to be let down. They do a great job in getting the sounds and fitting them into what you see in the game. Makes it very believable. Okay, so we're going to cruise along, and I will pick this up as we approach San Diego Bay, and then we'll cruise on over to the Balboa Medical Center and we'll go land at the helipads there, and then we'll call it a day, alright? Alright, we are back right off the tip of Point Loma there. We can cut on in. We'll just head up the bay, and then we'll go find Balboa Medical Center, which wouldn't be too far past the downtown area to the left there. So you see the downtown area, and then up on the hills kind of over there, Balboa Medical Center will be right behind it. So I was thinking as I was cruising back, there was a time when I was on the frigate that we were doing our southern deployments, so we're off the coast of like South America, doing the anti-narcotics stuff, chasing drug boats and all that fun, cool stuff. And we were out of range for the helicopter to reach Panama, and one of our shipmates, he started to get appendicitis, and it was kind of interesting to watch because for a long time I was always down in medical, just kind of learning from the corpsmen that were in there because they were my buddies. And I had an interest in becoming an EMT when I got out. So I'd learned a bunch of medical procedures from them, and then oftentimes when they had patients, that's cool, there's a lot of seagulls down there. Love that. There's a whole bunch of them. And yeah, he had stomach pains kind of on this left side of his body early on in the day, and then over time you could see the pain actually shift over to the right side, which is kind of how you can tell if someone's got appendicitis. And unfortunately we were out of range, and they made the decision to just go full speed on the ship to try and close the range to get to Panama, and that we would fly. We had a helo dead on board. I think it was HSL 49, the Stingers, Red Stingers, Red Scorpions. I think their call sign was Red Stingers. I have to look that up, but once we were in helicopter range, they flew them out to Panama to get treated. But I was with them overnight because they weren't able to fly until the next morning, and I felt really bad for him because they could not give him painkillers because they knew that he was going to go into surgery, so they wanted him to just not have anything in his system. All right, let's get rid of the autopilot there. We'll get the master caution. Yep. So he kind of just took all that pain all by himself overnight, which was just amazing. Alright, this is going to be dangerous here because we're going to cross over the flight path for Lindbergh. In real life, we'd contact air traffic control and they'd tell us where to cross. Actually, we probably wouldn't have taken this route. If we came in from the north there on the other side, we wouldn't have to do this. If you were to also fly a small GA plane, you'd fly right over the top at, like, I think 2,500 feet is the pattern. The reason why is because you can see aircraft coming into land, like, right there. If you're flying in San Diego, definitely get the left seat in the aircraft, because most likely they'll land on runway 27, and you get this beautiful view of downtown as you're coming into land. So we're actually coming around to Balboa Medical Center right now. That plane flew kind of right over it, nearly. There we go. It's that huge clump of buildings down there. That's Balboa Medical Center. So it's a massive facility. We can start lowering our speed. And the helipad, if I remember, is kind of on this side down somewhere. It should be, but there it is. It should be by that field, that baseball field down there. Okay, I think it's gonna be right ahead. Yep. So you can see this is a massive facility. And then just beyond it is Balboa Park, where there's just a lot of museums and things like that for you to go with your kids. Spend the day there. Alright, it's kind of tricky because there are like palm trees everywhere. And I want to be able to get in where I can see it from my right side of the aircraft. There we go. Yeah, look at this, just tall palm trees everywhere. Oh man, I tell you, Microsoft Flight Sim looks great at altitude, but when you get up close, it looks like this apocalyptic wasteland. But this is generally what this looks like. There's parking lots down here. There's a big parking structure over there. It's kind of funny, at the end of the day, you get trapped in there because everyone's leaving at the same time. And the main hospital area is kind of over there. I've been there a few times when I was in the Navy. If you get sick, normally you got to go through a sick call on your ship. If you're really sick, then they'll say go to Balboa and they'll let you go. If you go to Balboa without getting the okay from your corpsman on your ship, they will not be happy with you. Oh, I thought we had less to go there with the drop. There we go. Okay, we're good. We'll turn the parking brake on. Tail wheel's locked. I can stay locked. And go to open up the door. Kick our guy out. It's kind of cool. You can make the thing disappear. Okay, cool. Well, I think that's it. Let's take a look at the outside. I think we would have had a nice landing if I didn't misjudge that. I don't know if it's the grass that threw me off. I thought we were closer to touching down than we really were. I gotta say, it's this junk I really dislike with Microsoft Flight Sim. And I think I've got a really cleaned up Balboa area because there's a guy who's made a freeware mod who just cleans up this area because it was all kind of monoliths like this. It used to be way worse. And thankfully some guy fixed it. But it still persists. I think I'll check out Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 and see if this area is a little bit cleaner. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that. The patches that Miltech came out with for the MH-60 Romeo Sierra Tango versions, it fixes the maneuverability problems that the aircraft had before the patches. It rolls a lot better now. You can throw the helicopter around. The major annoyance with that ground proximity warning system with the bitch and Betty yelling at you, you can actually disable it this time. It actually works, unlike before. So that makes flying along the nap of the earth way more fun, so you don't have the annoying alarms going off. And yeah, I think the other minor stuff that I noticed was that standby altimeter is fixed now, which is good. the trim system, it didn't work before for me, but now it seems to work kind of intermittently. Sometimes I'll engage it and do a maneuver and it doesn't seem to take, but then some other times you can clearly feel that the system is taking. So I don't know what's going on there, but it is improved. It's well improved because it went from nothing to being actually usable. So it's really great. Yeah, I think this helicopter is, I think for the price tag, if it's not on sale, it's like $37 or something like that. I think that's well worth it for the sounds, the amount of liveries you get, the quality of the liveries. I mean, just this Coast Guard one is, the weathering on this thing is like masterfully applied. Like, this is how these helicopters get smudges and stuff on them, and even the glossy paint job, you can still see on some areas where the hands are and where it gets messy. Yeah, and this is just one of many liveries. There's a ton of them for all the variants that you get. So yeah, I definitely think it's worth the purchase. And if you bundle it with the mission pack thing, you'll also get, I think, a $3 or $4 discount on one of the items. So either the helicopter or the mission pack thing. So it reduces the price a little bit. So it's always welcome. Yeah, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below and I'll get to them as soon as I can. See you on the next one. Bye.